Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to dig into our big stories. And in 2 days, a matter of just 2 days, delegates of the governing New Patriotic Party will meet to elect a new flag bearer for the party. More than 200,000 members will elect one of the four candidates to lead the party into the 2024 general election. Today we'll discuss the issue, the surrounding issues, with Eko Assefuwa, his Member of Parliament, Old Tafo, and a member of Dr. Bawumia's campaign team. We also have the academics, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist, also head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, and Dr. Christopher Ampedu, political analyst, Pentecost University. All of them join us for a conversation. But here in the studio, we have Eko Assefuwa. Let me find out, for those who are virtually joining the conversation. Good morning, Doc and Doc. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, Dr. Christopher Ampedu, good morning.
And then good morning to your viewers and listeners.
All right. I believe that is Dr. Asah-Asante. All right. Doc, thank you so much for joining us.
Ben.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. All right. Then we have Eko Assefuwa, Member of Parliament, Old Tafo, member of Dr. Bawumia's campaign team. Thank you very much for joining the conversation.
Most welcome.
All right. So let's get into the conversation this morning. I mean, so many things have happened. And I will start from the standpoint of the Bawumia campaign, why you even joined it. Now, I followed your politics over time, your stint in education and everything in between. And now you are here. Some have found it curious, the gravitation towards Dr. Bawumia versus maybe an Alan Chamating, who has now stepped aside, formed his butterfly movement and all that. But what is it about Dr. Bawumia that got you on board, for starters?
Well, let me say a very good morning to you once again and to our cherished viewers. In 2017, you remember that I worked with the Ministry of Education, one of the agencies that had to, as it were, ensure the implementation of the flagship program, the Free Senior High School Education. The big question was, where were we supposed to get the money to do that? That was the big question. I remember that at the time, when we did the needs assessment and all the analysis, we realized that there were about 100,000 people who were not able to go to school every year because of poverty. And there were an additional 250,000 people or 300,000 people, depending on the yearly numbers, that will also be in school. And so government had to find a way to be able to capture all these people in the budget. That was how I realized the ingenuity and the intelligence of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. To be able to capture all these people in the budget and yet we will not be affected. To be able to pay teacher training allowances, capture it in the budget and yet we will not be affected. To be able to pay for all the arrears that we came to meet from the SWA government and yet we were not affected.
Arrears like?
You remember at the time the NDC told us that they have started progressive free senior high school education, where they started with just the day student.
They have the e-blocks and the
I am talking about the progressive free senior high school education, where they were supposed to pay about 450 Ghana cedis for every student who was a day student at the time. For them, that was how they were progressively dealing with free senior high school education. And I remember throwing a challenge to them that not even one senior high school, and I used my own alma mater, St. Hubert Seminary, as an example, that not even a kobo, not even a penny, was paid with regards to that free senior high school education that they were implementing or that they sought to implement at the day school. So these were areas that we came to meet. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who was the head of the economic management team, made sure that all these things were captured without the state being affected. And so, to answer to your question, I believe that in the times that we find ourselves, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has shown that indeed he can do it when you give him the opportunity. Because in 2016, the weak economic fundamentals that we inherited from the SWA government was transformed or was metamorphosed into a better economic fundamentals by 2018. And the numbers are clear. In 2016, you remember...
But it's been how many years now? 7 years. Why are you restricting yourself up to about 2018? You know why I have a problem with that? People will tell you that, of course, if you look at realistically, the gains we had made on the back of the previous IMF program, segueing into 2017, we saw palpable results in our fiscal development, in our debt to GDP, in many of these components that by which the economy is measured. In 2017, feeding into 2018, it made sense. How about now?
Let's not speak so much English. I'm just saying that let's take the numbers. The inflation figure in 2016 was about 15.4%. Is it or is not? 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, the aggregate of the inflation that we had in this country was a single-digit inflation. You want to talk about...
Not necessarily so. Not necessarily so. But what I'm trying to say is... Even if we want to talk about single-digit inflation, which I was discussing the other time with Miracles, Abwaje, we've hit 54.1% at a point in time.
Today.
Within the last 2 years. Yes. As of now, we are in the 30s range. And the projection is that we'll end in the 30s this year. Look at the dollar to CD, the pound to the CD. Let's just say the foreign currencies to the CD.
I was just trying to build a point.
If you want to talk about that, then let's talk about that as well.
That's what I'm saying. I was building a point. I would want to give you the circumstances to which we were able to do this within that 4 years. And why we are where we are today because of the circumstances that we have. You and I know that we have not been in normal times. You and I know that from 2020 coming, we've experienced COVID-19. So if you want to judge Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia on a fair scale, you judge him when there was no force majeure. That is the argument I'm just trying to make.
Right. So I'm sure you're going to tell me COVID-19 and the Russo-Ukrainian war have led us to where we are.
You don't agree?
They would contribute to some extent.
That is the point I'm trying to make.
To a minute extent.
No, not to the minute extent. It is because of the kind of economy that we've built for ourselves since 1957. It's been a weak, or if you like, a fragile economy that when it is hit so hard, it may not be able to stand on its feet. And that is the kind of economy that we have. But I'm just saying that in the absence of the force majeure, let us try and, as it were, be fair to the numbers, to the statistics, and see that when there was no force majeure, did His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, as it were, competently manage the economy or not, which I will answer in the affirmative. But of course,
competently managing an economy also means that the economic watchers, when they speak, were borrowing left, right, center. As far back as 2019, the writing was on the wall. We were getting caution, even from some of these ratings agencies, from the IMF itself.
It wasn't as worse as we are seeing today.
We continued on the borrowing spree, and we ended up the way we did. I'm just saying that if you pick Zambia, if you pick even Togo, if you pick Kenya, if you pick Rwanda, they were also buffeted by COVID-19 and the Russo-Ukrainian war. In fact, some of these countries, much more than we have been. Egypt, for example, the word there for bread is life. Practically all their grain from Ukraine, Russia. Look at them. And you can't even cry more than the bereaved because Ukraine itself, if you look at the impact on them and you look at us, it appears we're even doing worse.
Each country has its own individual circumstances. We have to build our history. We have to build our circumstances for the Ghanaian people to know where we are coming from. We have not even talked about where Kenya is coming from. Nobody knows, or you have not even educated the general public where Congo is coming from. All the African countries that you mentioned, you've not even talked about where they are coming from.
I didn't mention Congo, though.
I mean, all the countries that you mentioned. But I'm just saying that where we came from as a country, from 2016, or if like from 2012 to 2016, we were in this country. When this station, when you come here, you'll be using genset. The amount of fuel that you buy to be able to power your genset.
Well, we still do sometimes.
But are you telling me?
I've heard our plant go off about, if I'm not mistaken, twice within the last week. I don't think we should get into some of those arguments because
we have to.
Like Frimpong Kwejo Dennis says, why is your guest comparing their achievements to the previous government but not to their neighboring countries? there's a reason we booted out the previous government.
Yeah.
And if you want to, Dumso was there, right?
Yes.
It's part of why people
Yes.
were up to their eyeballs in frustration and said, we don't want this anymore.
Yes.
Do you know, in the last month or so, for about 2 weeks, there was a time when, for lack of even access to pay for electricity, I slept in darkness for about a week. 4 days to be specific.
You're talking
Do you know
about
that
the
in recent times,
Yes.
okay, for the last week or so, power goes off averagely about 5 to 7 times where I live. That's been the terrain. I've not had water for a week. So let's not even get into that.
No, I will not dispute that. But I'm just saying that even assuming without admitting that whatever you are saying is even true, 100%, Ben, the truth of the matter is that are you saying that you look in the face of the Ghanaian people and compare what you are talking about to what we experienced in 2012 to 2016?
I'll look in
That
the
sometimes
faces.
like
I'll
2
look at the
days.
faces of the Ghanaian people
Yes.
and say that once I am paying for my utilities, I expect certain results. It doesn't matter whether comparatively that was better. I didn't vote.
Oh, really? So
for
you
people
think-
to come into power.
so you think that there should be an improvement
so that
to the
they
status
would
quo?
come and give me
Are you saying that-
some semblance of what?
What semblance? Are you saying that there haven't been an improvement? Is that what you're saying? I know from 2017 to 2020, were we experiencing that kind of doom so you're talking about? Were we?
Should we?
Even today? No, we shouldn't. That is the improvement we are talking about. So if there has been an improvement and you are saying that there's a semblance, I am disagreeing with you, and I disagree with you totally because I live at around Spinters.
Okay.
And
have you had a power outage recently?
sometimes, and I will not dispute that. But the argument I'm trying to make to you is that what I'm seeing today is nowhere near what we experienced in 2012 to 2016.
All right, point made.
It cannot be the case.
Let's get to our other guests. Later on, if I forget, bring it up, because I actually wanted to find out how old Tafo is doing. But I'll get to that later on. Let me also bring in Dr. Christopher Ampadu. He's a political analyst at the Pentecost University. Doc, thank you for joining the conversation. Please unmute for me, Dr. Ampadu. Can you hear me, Doc?
Good morning. How are you?
I am well, sir. I hope you're well too. Right. We thank God you've been able to join the conversation. Let me start with you on this beat. Of course, we're having all these conversations ahead of November the 4th and everything that is going to happen, the primaries of the New Patriotic Party. From where you sit, especially for the presidential slots, looking at the 4 contenders, Kennedy Ojapong, there's Dr. Bawumia, there's Dr. Efria Akoto, there's Francis Adai-Nimo. When you look at the picture, the field that is being projected, some have said that if you look at the competition, it is not like in previous years, and that this might just be a one-horse race. What is your reading of that situation? Hello, Dr. Ampadu? Right. I think we will still work on the connection. Let me throw that same question to Dr. Kwame Asasante. Doc, if you can hear me, what is your take on that?
Hello, Ben.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that if you look at what is happening, it is a 2-horse race, not one. I believe the battle is between Kennedy Ejapon, Dr. Bawumia. There's no doubt about that, right? Look at the way they've presented themselves in terms of their vision, their policies, programs, ideas, and then you gauge it against their following and the rest of them. There is no doubt in my mind that it's the two which are the front runners of the program. The interesting thing is that we've seen a whole lot that they've done in terms of the way they want to win the election. But you and I know that November 4 is the deciding moment. So we wait until that time. But for now, I believe that the two, the remaining two, don't get closer to them at all. That I can say.
Okay. All right. Do we have Dr. Ampadu now? All right. We'll try to work towards getting Dr. Mpedu reconnected. But staying on that same beat, some have also said, if you look at the numbers, Dr. Asa Asante, the 900 plus that voted for Dr. Bawumia, earning him the over 60%, and the over 2,000 that actually voted in the super delegates, situation or setting. In this instance, we're looking at over 200,000. Some would even say over 220,000. That is like so many times more than 2,000 that actually voted. Look at the percentage difference. And that is where some have also come to say that maybe, even on the back of all the grievances that are faced, maybe the likes of Alan Tremantain jumped the gun by stepping aside. But in this instance, there are 4 left on the ballot. And the question is, the super delegates' pattern of voting, would it reflect in this current vote or the one to come on November the 4th? Mind you, we've seen different surveys pointing to different directions, but what remains constant is the fact that Dr. Bawumia is in pole position. But by what percentage he may win is what is being called into question. What do you make of that? You would have to unmute again, Dr. Kwame. Okay, I think I can hear you now.
Yeah, if you look at the August 26th election, yes, the Electoral College was quite small and Bawumia won massively. You just oppose that on this current one. Obviously, you are talking about a big electoral body that is going to make the decision. So obviously, by sheer numbers, you realize that you are talking about more numbers, and then it's going to be a whole lot of changes that is going to happen. Because come to look at even the statistics individually, you are talking about a population that has all manner of age groups in there, most of them being young people and the rest of them. Their desires, ideas, and aspirations are different if you compare to the previous electoral body that voted on 26th of August. So all these things will come to play. And that is why it is very difficult to, for one to stick your neck out that is going to go this direction or that direction. Because you are talking about a whole sort of people who are coming to vote, and the factors that influence their choices, remember, there are also many. At this level, people want to see the one that they want to elect, who will be able to rub shoulders with whoever has emerged or about to emerge from any political party outside the NPP. They want to see somebody who will be able to handle the country's economic problems and handle them well. And of course, record will come to play at this level. Who will be able to defend the party's record, who will be able to come out with, if you like, new sort of ideas that will bring energy, will bring hope to the people and all that. They really want somebody who, if they are to sell in terms of marketing to the good people of this country, it will not be that difficult for them because the person has a lot of baggage and the rest of them. So it's a whole admixture of factors that are going to play out. So that makes this election very, very, very interesting. And it's very difficult to point out who is winning from the word go.
Let me come to you, Dr. Mpedu. Thankfully, you've been able to reconnect with us. My question earlier had to do with the political dynamics, the 4 that are going to the polls on November the 4th, and the different dynamics. Some have said it's a 1-horse race. Dr. Kwame Asante is saying it's a 2-horse race. From where you sit, what do you see? Is it a clear-cut victory come November the 4th for Dr. Bawumia?
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm sorry, my network gave me a lot of problems there. Well, I think I agree with Dr. Kwame because, people assume that Bawumia is so popular and that he can easily win with a margin of about even 80%, which I completely disagree, because, you know, the whole work of President Nana Addo is now going to be interrogated, or is going to be seen in the work of Bawumia. And so if people are in dire need of even just food, care, health care, and life is so difficult, and people are just assuming that people will just vote for Bawumia because it's popular. Sometimes it's like an illusion, because people are looking at the unemployment rates, they are looking at the cost of living currently, they are looking at the challenges that we are encountering right now. While it is true that people can be given some monies to go vote, this is a number that you cannot influence easily, like as it was done in the previous election. So I think it is going to be something which is going to be very hectic for Bawumia to just win overwhelmingly, as he did in the previous vote. However, I think Kennedy is working hard. Nimo is also working hard. Balfour Kutu is also working hard. We cannot take their work for granted, that because they are not too popular, they are not going to win votes. Unlike the previous one, where people can easily be mobilized and somehow even manipulated and influenced, here is very difficult. And I think it is time for us to look at the socio-economic implications of this voting. It's not just going to be just vote and have your way out, because people will take a whole lot of things into consideration before they vote. Those who are down there, some of them, this get into about 8 years in governance, and accountability is so important. And that can be seen even from what happened at Asinov. People thought it was just something for the NPP aspirant to win. They were shocked by what happened. I think Ghanaians are now very enlightened that it is not just what people can give you right now. It is not what people say. They have to look at their socio-economic lives in terms of progress before they go into voting. And I think these 200,000 people are not just going to vote. I think they will take all of this into consideration before they go to voting. And I believe that at the end of it, yes, it looks or it appears that Bawumia is on the lead, but then I cannot underrate the other contestants.
Right.
They may surprise him, and it may go maybe to other rounds.
For those of you watching, I'll be reading some of your comments shortly, but I'd like us to expatiate as well, and I'll start with you, Dr. Ampadu, before I go back to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante and come into the studio. The influence of Kennedy Agyapong, the Assin Central, legislator, he's also spoken about some matters that have been echoed by the Francis Adai Nimos, by the Dr. Efria Kotos, by the Boache Jakons, and other contestants, including Alan Tremating. They've spoken about manipulation. They've spoken about intimidation. They've spoken about the influence of money. In recent times, though it's a bit outlandish, Kennedy Agyapong himself has claimed that there was an attempt from the Bawumia camp to buy him off, to get him not to contest against the vice president. He mentions some $800 million, which of course is rather outrageous in terms of sum. But the mere fact that this rhetoric seems to be funneling through the veins of the NPP, how problematic is that? What does it do to what we're going to witness on November the 4th? And then I would like to find out from you, what do you think, really? How potent is the threat of Kennedy Agyapong? These two put together. I'll start with Dr. Ampadu, but it is also for you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Dr. Ampadu.
Thank you so much. I think this is one of the most disciplined voting trends that the NPP have gone through.
Wow.
I was very surprised to see MPs, I think key leaders of the political party coming out to just tell public the people they want to vote for. Now, these are people of influence, MPs, regional executive members of the party. So it appears that, in fact, there is no discipline as far as the NPP is concerned. And this also does not accord fair grounds for all the contestants to really campaign so well for delegates to vote for. Because here we are, people of influence, our leaders, constituency leaders, all being harnessed to support one particular candidate for the first time. If the NPP should just pride herself by saying that they are the epicenter of democracy in Ghana, and the top leaders of the party are doing this, and the leadership cannot bring them to order to see a regional chairman of the party campaigning for a candidate, I think this is one of the very sad things to happen to this political party. It should not be taken for granted. How do you expect unity? How do you expect people to really come together to support this particular guy, if even he wins, to break the eight? I think these comments should not just be taken for granted. I also think it goes to the core of the political democracy as far as political party work is concerned. And once the leadership of the party have not been able to bring this into, to whip them and align them to the discipline of the party, I think, and all the contestants, apart from Dr. Barumia, is complaining or has complained bitterly about this. I think it's so sad for the NPP, and I believe that if they are sincere about breaking the eight, but now I can say it is too late for them to do anything about it.
I see.
But I think the party didn't do well to allow these things to go on.
Right.
Especially as you have key people coming out. I mean, it's true that everyone has someone to vote for or to align himself or herself with. But then the discipline of the party should bring them in line with what they stand for, especially if they want to be seen as more democratic.
Right.
But what they've done doesn't show much of their democratic potential that they claim to have.
All right. On the bit about the potency of the candidacy of Kennedy Agyapong, what would you say? He's been a bit of an interesting candidate. You could call him the dark horse of the race, a bit of a wild card. How do you see him in terms of political potency?
Yeah, I think he stands a good chance. Why? Because he's speaking the language of the ordinary people.
Right.
He is someone who is really down to earth, and there are visible signs of how he has given great support to ordinary people, both here and abroad. And again, in terms of some of the things he's talking about, one of the greatest problems we are contending with had to do with corruption. And we know Ken, well, maybe, except that maybe when he comes, he would behave like Nanado, who said, give me the chance. And then he came in, and then we are not seeing much of him. But I know that he is not going to allow corruption to overwhelm him, but rather the very canker that we are all contending with, he will really work to bring about, I mean, some end to the visible corruption that is going on that people are doing nothing about. Again, when it comes to employment, he has experience, and people know that he has given a lot of support and jobs to people. He has set up, he has experience as far as the business aspect of his life is concerned. Now, these are things that cannot just be taken for granted that, well, he's just speaking. Because he's not just speaking about it, that is his life.
All right. So
if that is life, I think many will buy into his words and then try to align themselves. I think he's a potential.
All right.
And
so
he should not be.
So he has the track record. I think your point is forcefully made. Dr. Kwame Asante, before I come into the studio.
Yes, Ben. I didn't get your question. Can you repeat that for me?
So I spoke about the contenders. I spoke about Kennedy Agyapong and the potency of his candidacy vis-a-vis what we see in Dr. Bawumia, among others. There was an initial question that I posed to Dr. Ampadu, as and when I recall, I'll bring it to you. But how do you find Kennedy Agyapong? Some have said he's the dark horse. Some have said he's the Trump of this, campaign who could shake the system, because he is not your typical politician. He's never been a minister. He's never been in cabinet. He's never been at the forefront of leading. But he's a businessman, and he has his own, linkages and all of that. But he's done well for himself, as people would say. I'm just sharing with you what people say about him. And they feel he is the anti-establishment candidate who can shake the system and drain the swamp a la Trump. What do you think?
Yeah, all that you have said, I also follow. If you look at Kennedy Agyapong, his persona, his political acumen, and his experience from the business world up to politics, there is no doubt in my mind that he stands tall in the scheme of things of politics. Let's look at he as a person. He is somebody that, if you follow the whole conversation and the whole process, is somebody who has a large following. There's no doubt about that. He is also somebody who speaks the language of the ordinary man. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But these are things that really influence voters, particularly so when you are talking about large unemployed youth, people, the vulnerable, the needy, and all that. He has ideas. Yeah, he has ideas. Look at some of the ideas he has articulated, that if given power, he will implement them and all that. Right. From tourism to the economy and the rest of them. He articulates great ideas. Of course, sometimes too, he goes over the top by saying that, yes, it's no issue of theoretical things alone. We should walk the talk. I agree. Much as I agree, there is something that we want to even point out here, that as Immanuel Kant said, that theory without practice is empty, but practice without theory is blind. So it tells you that the two go hand in hand. So all the theoretical things that people have done have yielded results of things that we see today. But that aside, if you look at his campaign, let's look at his campaign, the way he has pursued it. Apart from churning out the messages, telling us what are under his sleeves in terms of his ideas and all that, he's also exposing the ills, the evils within the party. For me, as from where I said, that is great, because then we get to know that all is not well, and that stakeholders must get their acts together and fix these things. Because take it or leave it, the NDC, NPP are the giant parties who are going to win elections anyway all the time until you get a third force, which I don't believe that any third force can come in the shortest possible time. Right. So the two, whether we like it or not, they will win because of the party system that we have. So he's pointing out the weaknesses of the party and all that. And to the extent that sometimes he dares the followers of the party and saying that, yes, if you like, I'm calling your bluff. Right. Say something different and I'll expose the ills, the more within the party. All these things are giving him some credibility, credibility, portfolio, credibility, support, and the rest of them. That's aside. He also showed to the world what he has done for himself. Remember, in politics, you are talking about contest of ideas. So ideas, he's churning out ideas, and referendum of your work. What work has he done as an individual, for which reason he believes that he must be given opportunity to serve this country? The little that he has done is showing to the people. And that is another amazing aspect. So when you put it all together, you realize that he stands in a very better position to lead the party if the delegates think so. What is going to go against him is the fact that his outbursts are going to be played out to him. There are a lot of videos that are out there. You and I know. Time will not permit us to go through all of them. And I am sure that he has taken political notice of that. He's preparing answers for that, because they are going to churn out all those things to him. You compare to Bawumia. Bawumia, a fine gentleman, great economist. There is no doubt about that. He has contributed his quota to the development of this country. There's no doubt about that. If you look at Bawumia's campaign, he talks about how to take the economic fortunes of this country to another level by building capacity of people to take advantage of the economic situation. He looks about looking about building human resource as the base for economic development and the rest of them. If you look at his campaign, you realize that, like Kennedy Agyapong, he has also taken the stage of the media and sharing his ideas, views to the people and all that. There is no doubt that he also has fine ideas, and that giving the nod, he'll be a fine gentleman to lead the party. But he also has a baggage, and the baggage is the very questions that he gave to the late Emisata. The 76 questions are going to be churned out to him. And then he should be able to explain to us how he's going to deal with those questions.
I will get to that bit, because yesterday, interacting with Sam George, he made, I believe it was Sam George, he made mention of the fact that, you know, they would prefer for Dr. Bawumia to win, because then, like, I think it's Kennedy Agyapong who said it, or someone like that, that then they wouldn't even have to contest, because all they would have to do is get the 76 or 100 plus questions, depending on when you're looking at, put them on billboards, and then throw them at the vice president to see whether he can answer. But hold for me, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. I have to come into the studio. Let me also acknowledge some of your messages. Desmond Elikblim Aflu says, so ECHO is clearly trying to avoid the narrative. The very candidates you are defending is still in power and hasn't done anything. I'm going to truncate your messages. I can't read all of them. Benjamin Dari says, please tell Mr. Asifua that we, the disappointed MPP, we are disappointed in the management of the MPP and the economy. I will boot them out. Ampa Asare, you say you have your concerns with how I'm handling the show, and you say I should be booted out. Okay, that's an interesting one. You know, Ampa, if you come and prove yourself better, I would gladly cede my position to you. I don't get a problem. If you can do this better, you could go through the processes and come and replace me if need be. But I'm sure the reactions of Abdul Samed and Frimpong Kwejo Dennis to you should give you some guidance. There's also, this one says, I disagree with the panel who said party leaders choosing candidates they want to be voted for. The question is, who among those leaders has any credibility? None of them. There are many more messages. I'll read them as time goes on. There is this question. I mean, obviously, there's no one who is all negative and no one who is all positive. It's not possible. But there's this narrative, Echo, that Dr. Bawumia comes with too much baggage. That as head of the economic management team, do you remember the taunts, you know? Do you remember this person? Do you remember that person that was on the NDC's economic management team? Do you remember them? No one did. Now, he is at the helm of the economic management team. And we are where we are. I'm just labeling for you one of the things that have been said. Messages here, some of what our guests have said. That gives him too much baggage. In other words, people say he will win the battle, all right, but lose the war. What do you think?
I think that he has, or he probably has some negatives, but he has so much positives. I'll tell you why. When I was contesting for Otago constituency, it was very difficult for you to say anything against me, because I had not been given an opportunity to lead. Now, when you are given an opportunity to lead, because you are now a leader of the plethora of people who gave you that opportunity for you to lead them, It is not everything that you do that will satisfy them. And I do not think that Joy News or any media house or any commentator will want to tell me that when you take the manifesto of the New Patriotic Party, you are expecting that you will be able to achieve all the 100%. Yes, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia made some promises. Yes, he made mention of a number of things with respect to the economy. You may not be able to, as it were, see that all those things has been achieved in its entirety. But it doesn't mean that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is having so much baggages. No, I do not agree to that. What I think is that he may have...
They say that at least, pardon the interjection, they say that at least he has a lot more baggage compared to the other three.
Which I disagree, because the other three have not been given an opportunity to be vice president. That is why I use myself as an example. When I was contesting in 2020, the things that they are saying about me or the things that they can say about me today was never said in 2020. The difference is that today you are a leader. And so not every action of yours or not every inaction of yours will go down well with the people. And so that is agreed. He is winning the race because he has so much positives at his disposal. And that is why the over 200,000 people who are eligible to vote on Saturday are going to give their support to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Not because of anything, but because I think that the positives outweigh the negatives. And so any argument that he is having so much baggages to his disposal is something that I would disagree. It is not proper because... Hey,
it is not proper or it's not founded.
It is not founded. I mean, it is not founded because today, if you take digitalization, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is one of the people who have made politics in this country since days immemorial. From 1957, you see a vice president who now talk about issues, making politics about issues, thinking about how to be able to transform the economy to the one that we are seeing in the outside world. The US and the UK, where you go to UK today, it is very difficult for you to be holding cash around. This is what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is thinking about for the nation. And so it is very difficult for me, for anybody to, as it were, assert that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is having so much baggages. He is not having so much baggages. He's having some negatives, as human as he is, and as a leader that as he is, like myself. But I think that the positives outweigh the negatives that he's having.
If you're so sure, maybe even cocksure, because I've heard some of the members of your camp come across as though nothing possibly could create a seismic political shift as far as the November 4th primary is concerned, the presidential primary. But some have also warned that you're looking at over 200,000 delegates and that you cannot sit pretty and think you've won already. But there's also this point. If you feel you're sitting so pretty, why have there been attempts, so-called, and I'm only saying because I've heard from your camp debunking those claims, but Kennedy Japan, not once, at least twice, has said your side has tried to influence him monetarily, and that this is something that has been done to get him to step aside so your candidate can move forward and become flag bearer. If you're so confident, why are you using all of these tactics? And mind you, I'm linking it to what others have said. Dr. Ifria Koto, Francis Adai Nimo, Kennedy Japan, Alan Tramating, among others, Boachi Jako, talking about manipulation, intimidation, the influence of money. Why do you need to resort to that?
Those are his words as against Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. I have seen a video where Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia clearly, openly, as it were, denying those allegations that have been made against him. When we talk about politics of intimidation and moneycracy, if you like, giving so much money to people just for them to support you, then I ask myself, the only elections that we've had is the special delegates election, which MPs were part. So I feel very insulted if Kennedy Japan or any commentator will say that I have been influenced to go and vote for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, as if I don't know my left and right. Is Kennedy Japan telling me that since he started going around, he has not been giving transportation and other things to people? Is he saying that he has not been giving pickups and other things to people? Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in his office has denied categorically that there has not been any approach by himself or any of the team members to Kennedy, Japan.
That has been made, but the question is, are you afraid of him?
We are not afraid. Why are we afraid of him? Because you see, if you check the architecture of how the elections are, if an MP goes to vote for a particular candidate, anybody who understands the political architecture of the NPP and how our electioneering processes are will know that the MP voting is having about 400 or 500 other people who is also going to vote in support of his choice. That is clear.
Because the MP is influencing other people.
No, because
but the influence is clear. I had a former MCE come here, Dennis Miracles,
yes.
He's a member of your team. Come here and say that as former MC, he's actually whipping his people in line to vote for the vice president. He came here and said that.
No, because they will ask, in our circumstances that we have now, what is your opinion about who should lead the party? You get the point. Are you saying that Kennedy Japan in 2004, 2008, 2012 didn't have an opinion as to who should lead the party? Why are we being ostriches?
But this is the first time, really, that we see people coming out like this. In fact, at the start of the campaign, there was even talk from as high as the presidency itself that don't take sides and all of this. Well, the campaign has started, yes, but the way people are taking sides, like one of the academics, I've forgotten whether it's Dr. Asante or Dr. Ampedu this morning. If you go down this road, eventually you choose one person, yes. But the crevices, the cracks, the fissures in the party, will you be able to mend them moving forward? That's the question.
We have to create the impression to the Ghanaian people, more especially the party people, that you are united against one candidate. We are sending a signal to the people that this is the best person for us in 2024. You see, if there's any problem, I think we should rather tackle how our album is being made. Because if you allow an MP to be a delegate, if I'm a delegate, it means that I'm supposed to vote. I should have a choice. But if you want me not to be someone who is supporting someone for anybody to know that, hey, the MP is clearly supporting a candidate, then maybe we should rather, if you like, amend our constitution to allow such leaders not to be voting and just allow the grassroots to be voting. But as soon as you make me a delegate, I have a choice and I have to make sure that I exercise that franchise openly for everybody to know that this is the candidate I'm supporting. So there's no doubt about the fact that if an MP, or if like a regional chairman or a constituency executive decides to support a candidate, it is that road. Because of how the architecture of our electioneering processes are, these are the challenges that you may face. But I must tell you that on November 4th, it is clear that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is going to carry the day.
And that has been the rhetoric. We've even seen BMW, Bawumia must win, right? It's something your campaign has put out. I just have this final question on this subject before I go to the other guests. BMW, Bawumia must win. Must it be at all costs, even to the detriment of the NPP?
Absolutely.
We have
Absolutely
stalwarts,
not.
even some
Absolutely not.
founding members of your party who have said that this will spell doom for your party.
That is his opinion. That is my opinion. That is the opinion of the other person. The opinions of other people cannot be chastised or cannot be attacked as if the other person is a superhuman being. If you are a stalwart in the party and you have an opinion that this is the way we should go, why do you think that as an MP, I should not also have an opinion?
Right.
Where have you got into? What kind of analysis is that? If you have an opinion, I should also have an opinion.
Okay. And that, honestly, everybody has their own opinion.
Absolutely.
And you exercise...
there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. You exercise discretion. And just as you've chosen, for example, to support the Bawumia campaign. But let me come to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante on this point, and maybe to both of you, Dr. Asah-Asante and Dr. Ampedu, as we gear up to get to the final bit of this conversation. Now, if you look at the temperament of the four contenders, especially, I want to narrow it down to Kennedy Agyapong because he is such a wild card in all of this, the dark horse, as some have said. His temperament. While we've spoken about the positives, he's a businessman and he comes in as someone who is not as tainted as the others. His temperament, his self-control, his speech, how he carries himself. Some have even gone as far as saying it is unpresidential. Now, we also cannot forget the rhetoric in respect of Ahmed Hussein Swale, who was in this space, the fourth estate. And we saw what happened to him on the back of, we know him, if you see him, beat him and all of that. He got gunned down. Till today, we've not got to the bottom of that matter. What is your take on that in terms of his temperament, in terms of those qualities that are presidential. And I also want you to add to that, what do you think then? Let's assume Dr. Bawumia wins. Would a Bawumia-Ken pairing in election 2024, Bawumia-Ken, would it do in the election to secure the election for the NPP and help them break the 8? 2 questions. I hope both of you got them. I'll start with you, Dr. Kwame Asasant.
Yes, I will start with the last one first. With the pairing of Bawumia-Ken do the trick for the NPP. The first thing is that you want to find yourself whether it will be possible for the two to come together and then fight this common battle. But in politics, I also concede that anything can happen. So it's a difficult one. But if you put the two together, yes, their strength will play out. But weaknesses of each of them can really put together, can also undermine their chances. Because there are a lot that you can say. Take, for instance, Dr. Bawumia. We've said the good things or the good things about him. The baggages, all right? The issue of the economy, how we have arrived here. I mean, I don't know how he's going to explain it. Yes, we have heard also him say that, yes, he's not in that position where, as a vice president, he doesn't control everything and all that. For me, that argument cannot be taken because if you think that you have what it takes to support your government and you've been denied, you voice it out and it's not accepted, you vote with your feet, you resign. Why is he still in office? I mean, and that you want to be given the opportunity as the president before you can act. No, we can give him examples. The Mr. Kufuor, when he was with the PNDC, he felt that at a point in time, he could not continue. They would not listen to him, and what the government was doing, he was not in support of that. He left. And that is the mark of a politician, all right? So if you think that your advice is not being taken, you think that where you are being shortchanged, and the rest of them, you have the right to vote with your feet. So that cannot. The issue of, the reckless borrowing and all that, which the MP was trying to justify because we are in a very difficult, we had COVID, we had all these things. These excuses can be given. But I tell you that the reality is that, are we saying that the government doesn't have a hand into the economic, mismanagement of the country? That also cannot be wished away. So I was looking forward to him saying that, yes, the government also, much as those factors also played a role in the economic difficulty that we find ourselves in, the government also have something that, contributed to where we are. And I was expecting that from the Honorable MP. I didn't get that. But fast forward, if you look at Kennedy Japan, obviously, you are talking about, we've talked about his strength, but his weaknesses are some of the things that he has said and all that. Let us remember that when we're talking about politics in Ghana, issue of what, your temperament and all that, they count a lot. They count a lot. And that brings me to your first question, that his temperament and all that. Yes, that is a problem. If you ask me from where I sit, I realize that he did not manage his temperament well. I mean, he did not manage himself well in that area, apart from the fact that he's a fine gentleman, he has ideas and all that. But that must be said. He did not manage himself well in terms of that area. That is what is going to go against him. Because when you put him up as a leader, you don't know the next moment what his action is going to be. That is something that is really agitating the minds of people. A lot of things he has said, I mean, against people, against establishment, against individual groups, and the rest of them. All right. One of the things that he said, which I found very, very unfortunate, that he said that, look at Joy FM. and I think it was Mama View went and interviewed him about agriculture. He spoke on a number of issues, but he said that if you want to be poor, that you want to go into agriculture. That I found very, very unfortunate, because this country's mainstay is what? Agriculture, and the rest all boils down to the fact that he did not manage these things very well. But apart from that, he has a strength, very much so. And if you look at all the things he has said and all that, I have said that these are the things that are going to be played against him. The good news is that the two gentlemen we are talking about here, they have acknowledged the effect of all the things that they have said, and they are ready to provide answers to us. But as to whether people will accept them is another thing. I have heard Kennedy Japan dealing with some of the issues we are talking about on TV, online, and the rest of them, trying to justify, trying to defend, and all that. I've also heard Dr. Bawumia also trying to do same relative to the things he has said against NDC and all that. But as to whether they will be able to convince people with what they have said is another thing.
All right. Dr. Ampedu.
Thank you so much. I think I would want to start from his temperament.
Okay.
It's true that Ken, I've said several things that even now he himself has regretted saying it. But just citing an example of what Doc said, if you want to be poor, go into farming. Now, I think he said it in context. In the sense that in our country, Ghana, if you look at how farmers have been treated, in fact, I don't want to be speaking for him, but then some of the things he said it, I think, based on the acrimonious attitude and behavior of some leaders and some Ghanaians to the detriment of others. So maybe out of annoyance, out of frustrations, he had to say what he said. Look at how farmers have been treated in our nation all these years. It takes a lot of industrious behaviors for people to come out from farming and be very prosperous. And it is true that things about Swale and others are so acrimonious. But then, again, since he has not been taken to court to be really on a criminal court to be charged on some of these things, I don't think we can talk much about that. But again, let's look at this. Yes, his temperaments are not the type some people think we need. But in Ghana, temperaments matter. And they do influence some political decisions, especially people of a class, a level.
Right.
But then when you look at this temperament, even currently, people get rich. We don't even ask how come they become prosperous from nowhere. People are corrupt and they're distributing money and wealth, building houses, and then acquiring property for themselves, and no one is questioning it.
Right.
Now, this is a guy, despite his temperament, he's caring for the poor, paying fees for those who cannot afford, sending others abroad to go make life, giving scholarships, helping healthcare delivery systems, donating to poor communities and all of the others. Now, the average Ghanaian, what matters to him is survival.
Okay.
How do I survive?
I think Dr. Ampedu.
Talking about temperament. He is talking about survival. How do people survive in our current dispensation? So I think whilst he can be blamed for some of these at best, again, what he's doing to help the ordinary person or people far outclass what he is saying.
Okay, Okay, so I just have to do this. I just have to do this very briefly. I want a straight answer, yes or no. Is Bawumia, Dr. Bawumia, the weakest candidate of the four? Or compared to Kennedy Japan, is he the weakest?
Well,
just a straightforward answer. Straightforward answer.
You want yes and no, but
yes.
then, each of them has some baggages. As human as they are.
Is he weaker? Is he weaker?
I think so, because he is part of the economic management team.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I wanted. Dr. Pedu, that's all I wanted. Time is not on our side. Dr. Asante, is he weaker? Is he the weaker force?
Who?
Dr. Baumia, compared to Kennedy Japan, is he the weaker because of the baggage? Straight answer. That's it.
I can't provide an answer.
Thank you. Let me come into the studio. You have the final word. And also, I'd like to celebrate you. You were called to the bar.
That's about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, 3 weeks ago is still fresh. Yeah. We've not been on this show. We've not spoken about it. So
yes, absolutely.
I guess now it's fitting to add Esquire to your name.
Well.
Though you don't sing in a choir.
Well.
Okay, so congratulations on that. You have the final word, at least to react to some of what they've said briefly, and then we can.
I think that on November 4th is just a word of caution and advice that I want to give to my party people, especially because when you look at what happened during the special delegates conference, it was largely or almost or near peaceful, except one or two incidents that happened, which was just because of some disagreements as to don't show your ballot and those things. And so clearly, if you want to just maximize that effect into about 200,000 people who is going to vote, we are just hopeful that we don't have such incidents. The New Patriotic Party that I know should exude that gentility that we are known for.
All right.
Should exude that peaceful nature that we are known for, because whatever happened on November 4th may be played back to what. And so the rules has been set very clear. Yesterday I saw a statement from the regional minister of Ashanti region letting us know how the voting is going to be like, an open space. So if you are not entitled to vote, you don't enter the yard.
So basically, you just want people to comply by the rules, the guidelines.
It's very
by what percentage is Dr. Baumia winning? I've heard some of your team members give percentages. By what percentage can he not fall below? What's your projection?
He's not doing less than 70%.
He's not doing less than 70%?
In Otafu, we are giving about 75%. Yeah.
Echo.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Right.
So those who joined us for the conversation this morning, Echo Assefu, Member of Parliament, Otafu. He also is, I saw some people talking about the Swami interchange, but that's a conversation for another day. Member of Parliament, Otafu. Dr. Kwame Asante, political scientist at the University of Ghana. Dr. Christopher Ampedu, political analyst with the Pentecost University. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having joined the conversation. We'll take a breather. When we return, we'll talk about that agreement, the visa waiver between Ghana and South Africa. What does that regime hold? What are the dynamics? What should you know? It doesn't just mean you can just pick your passport, go. There are certain requirements. What are they? We'll be bringing you the scoop on that after the break.